Hello everyone, welcome back to the Java tutorial series. In this video, we will learn one of the most important concepts in object-oriented programming, that is interfaces in Java. So we will understand what an interface is, why interfaces are needed, how to create and implement interfaces, and what are the interface rules, and we will see some real world examples. So by the end of this video, you will be able to confidently use interfaces in Java. So let's get started. So what is an interface? Think of an interface as a contract. It specifies which methods a class must implement. Okay. So the interface only declares the methods. Only declares, not define. Okay. So only declaration, that is method declaration, will be available inside interface, and the logic or the implementation will be provided by the implementing class. So an interface is a blueprint, okay, that contains method declaration. I hope by now you are aware of what method declarations are. Okay, so method declaration means we will not be having definition, or in other words you can say declaration means without implementation. Okay, without implementation. So we'll be having only method declaration. I will give you one example. Let's say method declaration. Okay, so return type int add, and let's say int a comma int b. So this is what method declaration. We are not providing implementation or definition that what this method will do. Okay, so we are just provided method declaration. So these method declaration will be available, will be writing inside an interface. And apart from this method declaration, we will be having some constants. Okay, so it defines what should be done. Okay, what should be done, but not how it should be done. That means what should be done. Okay, so we are providing what should be done, that is add. Okay, this method is specifying this method will be adding. That means what is clear, what we need to do, that is clear, that is addition. But how to add, what is the logic, we don't know, right? Only declaration is there in the interface. So how part is not available inside an interface. Okay, then you must be thinking like, okay, we have method declaration, but who will provide the method definition now? Okay, so this question comes in mind. Okay, we have method declaration. Now who will define the method definition, and where we will define that method definition? So the answer of that question is third point. Okay, the implementation is provided by the class that implements the interface. Okay, so whatever class, let's say XYZ, there is keyword in Java. Okay, implements the interface name. Let's say interface name. I am writing for now interface name. Okay, so this is the keyword for using interface. Okay, for inheritance, what keyword we use to show the relationship between child class and parent class? That is extends, right? Class child class. For inheritance, we write like this, right? Class child extends and parent class name. Okay, so this is the syntax for what? Inheritance. But for implementing interface, this is the keyword implements and the interface name. Okay, this is the syntax. We'll cover in the syntax part. Okay, but here the third point is saying, so implementing interface. So this class XYZ is implementing this interface. So this class needs to provide the method implementation. Method implementation. Why this class is providing method implementation? Because we have not provided the method implementation inside interface. We have just provided the method declaration. Okay. So this is an interface. So let's move. So this is like real life example. Okay. Imagine a TV remote. Okay. Every TV has a power, volume up and volume down buttons. Okay. So these many buttons we have in the remote. Let's say. Okay. But based on the different what we can say brand or company, okay, like Samsung, Sony or LG TV, whatever it is, so those different brands will perform these operations different, okay, because the logic and the processing will be different for each one of those companies. Okay, so the remote only defines the available buttons. So these are what available buttons. Okay, so each TV decides how those button works. Okay, so similarly, an interface define methods. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say interface. How do we define interface? We'll write the keyword interface, then interface name. So let's say we are defining what? Interface. Let's say power. Okay, so this is what interface name. Okay, and inside this interface name, or you can say instead of power, I will write remote. This is the interface name, and inside this I am defining power. Let's say void power. So this is the syntax of in defining an interface. Okay, so we will write interface, then interface name followed by curly braces, and inside the curly braces we will be writing the method what? Declaration. So as we all know, interface will have method declaration only, and the class, which class, let's say any class which is implementing, what is the keyword implements, what is the interface name? Remote. Okay, remote. So the class implementing the interface will provide the definition of method. Which method? Which is present inside interface. So power. So in this method, this class will provide the method definition. Let's say it is printing click power button, anything. Okay, just implementation is provided by the implementing class. Implementing class means the class which is implementing that interface. Okay, now why do we need interfaces? Why we are learning this concept? So let's see first if we don't have interface, or we can say problems. What are the problems without interfaces? Okay, so suppose your application directly depends on a specific class. Okay, and if you later replace that class with another implementation, then you will need to modify many parts of your application. Why many parts? Because the other implementation, those are associated with the class which you have provided, then it will be like very hectic, changing every part of the application. So how do we solve this problem? So interface is the solution. How? By providing a common contract. Okay, what is that contract? So your code depends on the interface. Okay, so what do we provide in an interface? What do we provide in an interface? Only method declaration, right? Only method declaration. Declaration means what this method will do. That's it. What it will do. Only method declaration is present inside interface. And who will provide how it will be done? That is how it will be done. That is method implementation. Who will provide the method implementation? So implementation will provide by the class which is implementing class implementing. Okay, class implementing interface. Okay, so this is how part. So now your code depends on what? Code depends on the interface, not the implementation. So this makes the application flexible, maintainable, okay, and easier to extend. So whatever class associated with the application, those classes will implement this interface. Okay, this interface. Okay, we'll see some examples so we'll have better clarity. Okay, so let me go to IntelliJ and we'll see some examples. So what we are learning here, we are learning interfaces. Okay, now so let me define one interface. Okay, so we need to select interface here and we need to provide the interface name. Okay, let's say for now I am giving interface name only. Okay, interface name. So this is the name of an interface. Okay, just to show you the syntax I am writing this one. Now let's say we have method. So here we need to define method. Okay, method, let's say, and we can have multiple methods. Okay, method 1, and similarly we can define one more method, void method, let's say 2. So here we can declare, sorry, not define. So here what we are writing, inside interface we will be having only method declaration. Okay, and we can have some constants. Okay, so method declaration, not definition. So an interface is created using interface keyword here. Okay, and methods are declared without implementation. That is method declaration. Okay, we'll write here without implementation. Okay, so classes that implement this interface using implements keyword will provide the definition of these methods. Okay, let me take one real example. Let's say I will create one interface. Okay, so let's say payment. Okay, so this is what interface name. So public interface payment, and inside this interface we'll be having method declaration. So let's say method declaration pay and double amount. Okay, we are just declaring what this method will do. Okay, now we will be having one class which will implement this interface. Okay, so let's say UPI payment. Okay, so this is the class name. So this class will implements interface name. What is the interface name? Payment. Okay, see, it is started to giving compilation error. Why compilation error? Because during compile time only it is saying whatever interface you are implementing, those methods need to be defined in this class. Okay, so here we need to provide the method implementation, that is public void pay, and what was the parameter? Double amount. Now here we will define that method. See, compilation error is gone. So we need to provide the method definition in the implementing class. So let's say I write here paid and amount. Okay, that's it. And at last I will write using UPI. Okay, so we have created one interface payment. In this payment interface we have declared one method called pay, and we have created an implementing class which is implementing the interface, and the class name is UPI payment. And in this implementing class we have provided the method definition, method implementation. Okay, now we will use this thing. How? In the main class, in the main method I will create an object of class. Okay, which class? Payment equals to, how do we create an object? Using new keyword. And what is the class name? UPI payment. Okay, so we have created an object of UPI payment class. Which method do we have inside this pay method? So we will call the pay method payment dot pay. Okay, should be small, right? Payment dot pay. Now it is coming. We need to provide some double amount. Okay, so let's say 5,000. Now, so we are providing 5,000. Here it will go paid 5,000 using UPI. Okay, so this will be output. Let's verify. See, paid 5,000.0 using UPI 0.0 because we are using double as a data type. See, here it is double. That's why it is showing 0.0. So reference type is payment, but object belongs to UPI payment. Okay, so this allows us to switch implementation easily. Okay, let's say tomorrow we can replace this UPI payment with, let's say, credit card payment, net banking payment. Okay, without changing the remaining code, only we will just replace the object here. So this provides flexibility, and also it supports runtime polymorphism. Okay, during runtime, which method to call? It depends on what object we are creating. Okay, that's why runtime polymorphism. Okay, let's take one more example. So I'm creating another interface called, let's say, notification. Okay, notification, and in this interface I will declare one method. Send. What it will send? Message. Okay, string message. So I have provided the method declaration in an interface. Now I will create one class which will implement this interface. So let's say email notification. So by name also it is clear. Okay, so this is the class, normal class, but we will implement interface. What is the interface name? Notification. Okay, since we have implemented the interface in this class, we need to provide the method implementation of the all methods present in the interface. So whenever we implement an interface, we need to provide the definition of all methods present in the interface. So in this example, we have one method send. So we need to provide the definition of send method. So public void send string message. Okay, so here I will provide the definition. Let's say email plus message. Okay, so whatever message we provide, that will be printing. So this is one class, right, which is implementing this interface. Now let's say I have one more class that is implementing the same interface. This time I will write SMS notification. Okay, so this is normal class. This class is also implementing notification. Okay, so since this class is implementing the notification interface, this class needs to provide the method implementation of send method which is present in interface. So public void send string message. Okay, so here I will provide one print statement stating SMS message. Okay, that's it. So we have one interface but two implementation class. What are those? First is SMS notification, another one is email notification. Okay, so you can think of like an application. There is an application and the requirement is to send a notification. Okay, so sometime it will send an email notification and sometime it will send SMS notification. Okay, so for this kind of requirement we can implement like this. So we have two implementation class of one interface. Okay, all of them perform the same operation, that is sending a notification. Here it is sending SMS notification, here it is sending email notification. So the interface defines the contract, okay, while each class provides its own implementation. So you can see in notification interface we have only method declaration, but we have two implementation class which are providing method definition based on their requirement. For email notification we have different method implementation. Okay, for this method only we have different implementation in email notification and different implementation in SMS notification. So based on requirement, these classes are providing their own definition, but method is same. That's why we are providing here method declaration. Okay, so this is what to be done, and this is inside the implementation class how it should be done, that is method definition. Okay, so that's how we achieve the abstraction. Only essential detail will be shown to end user. And what is the logic? What is the logic here? Okay, complex detail, non-essential detail will not be shown to the end user. Only what it will be done, what it will be doing, those things end user will be knowing. Okay, so let us create an object and verify it, whatever we have seen. Okay, I will put it here. So notification is the interface name. So we are creating an reference of interface reference. Okay, now we will create an object of implementation class email notification. Okay, now we will call the method of email notification send. Okay, email notification. Okay, interface, let's say interface. Now output should go to the, since we are creating an object of email notification, the send method of email notification will get called. So it should print email interface. Okay, let's verify. See, email interface. Now instead of email notification we will change the implementation class to SMS notification. So this time it should print SMS interface. Let's verify. See, SMS interface. Interface is just a message. Okay, you can send any notification, message. Okay, so based on the object we are creating, this method will get called, and this method is implemented by two implementation class, and these both classes are implementing one interface in which we have provided method declaration what needs to be done. Okay, this is the power of interface. So let's have some rules. What are those rules we need to follow while creating an interface? Okay, so interface rules. So interface cannot create objects of an interface, okay, as we create for class. So we cannot create an object of interface. Okay, I hope you remember. For abstract class also we cannot create objects. Okay, for now interface we cannot create an object. Okay, and this is important point. Okay, important. Methods, whatever method we are declaring in an interface are public and abstract by default. Okay, so let's say I have defined interface notification, and inside this I am providing method void send. Okay, I have declared this method. Okay, so what it is saying, methods are by default public and abstract. So even though I have not defined here the public and abstract, I have started from return type, but still by default it will be public and abstract. Whatever method we declared inside interface, those methods will be public and abstract. Okay, so public is what? Access modifier. I hope you remember access modifier. Access modifier means the scope of this method. Scope means where we can call this method, where we can use this method. So public means anywhere, right? This is the widest scope. And second keyword is abstract. Abstract means we are not providing the definition, we are just providing the declaration. That's why we are using abstract keyword. So even though we are not providing these things, Java will implicitly default this thing public and abstract for methods. Then an interface will have variables, right? Not only methods. So what are the rules for variables? So for variables, similarly, by default it will be public, static, final. So let's say I define anything, okay, int, let's say any variable x. That's it. So by default here here interface will define public, static, final for the variables, and for methods public and abstract. This is an important interview questions. Okay, what are the, like, what is the scope of methods if we are not providing? So by default it will take these things. What are the scopes of variables if we are defining? So by default it will take public, static, and final. Okay, public is access modifier, static is main for class, final means we cannot change the value of the variable. If we are declaring here as a int x equals to 10, we cannot change the value. Okay, now a class can implement multiple interfaces. Okay, class can implement multiple interfaces. What does it mean? So let's say we have defined an interface, let's say A, and inside this we have written some method xyz, and let's say we have another interface defined interface B, and we have provided method declaration pqr. So these are the two interfaces. Now there is one class. Okay, class, let's say any class. Okay, let's say person. Now this class will implements this keyword we used for implementing interface. So class person implements A, comma B. Why we are writing comma? Because this class person is implementing two interfaces. One is A and another is B. So we know the rule, right? Whichever class which is implementing any interfaces, so this class should provide the definition or method implementation of all methods present in the interface. So class person has to provide method implementation for all methods present in interface A as well as B. So for both interfaces, whatever number of methods declaration are there, for those method, person class has to provide method implementation, method definition. Okay. So by this we can achieve multiple inheritance also. I will explain you. So I hope this is clear. One class can implement multiple interfaces. Now an interface can extend another interface. Okay, what does it mean? This keyword, when do we use? I hope you remember. So in an inheritance, we have used this word extends. So class child extends parent. That means inheritance. So whatever properties and behavior present in the parent class, that can be automatically accessed by the child class. So parent-child relationship is shown by extends keyword. So similarly, interface also we can use. Let's say we have two interface class, interface A and interface B. So here also we can say inter B, let's say extends A. So inheritance is going on in interface. Similarly, instead of class, it is interface. That's it. The concept will remain same. How? So interface B extends A. That means B is the child interface and A is the parent interface. That means whatever method or properties that is defined inside interface A, those will be automatically available in the B. Okay. So let's say interface A is the parent interface and interface B extends A. So B is the child interface, and inside parent interface we have XYZ method, and interface B we have PQR method. So if class let's say person implements class B, only B, that means child interface. So child interface automatically will have the method XYZ. So class person has to implement PQR as well as XYZ. Why? Because XYZ is accessible from class B, interface B, since B interface is a child interface and child has accessibility of the parent property and behaviors methods. Okay, I hope it is clear. So this is similar to inheritance what we read in for classes. Instead of class, here it is in interface, but the rules are same. Okay, now let's go to IntelliJ and we'll see some interface variables, how to define variables. Okay, so let's say this is an interface notification. So I want to define variable. How I will define variable? Let's say double. Okay, and with capital letter, let's say interest rate equals to anything. Okay, 8.9 whatever. So like this we define. Okay, now how can I access this value? Directly write notification. Okay, notification dot interest rate. So it will directly print. Okay, see 8.9. So like this, by interface name we can directly access the properties or variables. Okay, so variables declared inside an interface are automatically public, static and final, even though we are not providing. Okay, so their values cannot be modified. We cannot modify this value interest rate. Okay, now we will see the concept of multiple inheritance. Okay, multiple inheritance. How to achieve multiple inheritance? Using interface. So we are learning multiple inheritance using an interface. So let's say we have one interface, okay, one interface called camera. Okay, in this camera interface we have method take photo. Okay, take photo is the method declaration. Now let's say we have another interface, okay, let's say music player, and inside this we have one method called play music. Okay, so we have defined two interface, one is music player, another one is camera. Now we will define one class which will implement these two interfaces. Okay, so let's say smartphone. Okay, smartphone implementing two interfaces, multiple inheritance using implement. Okay, so implements, what are those two interface which we have created just now? One is camera, and another one is camera and music player. Okay, music player. Now why it is showing compilation error? Because we are implementing two interface, that means this class needs to provide method implementation for all methods present in these two interfaces. So let's check what are those two interfaces methods. So for camera we need to define take photo, and for music player we need to define play music. So these two methods we need to define in the implementation class smartphone, then this compilation error will be gone. So let's define it. So for camera it is take photo, right? Public void take photo. So I will define here and I will write, let's say photo captured, and we have one more method, right, in the music player, play music. So we will define play music method here, play music, and we'll define playing music. See, compilation error is gone. Since we have defined all the method which are present in the all interfaces. Here in this case, two interfaces. So in this example, we have two interface. One is camera, another is music player. And inside camera interface, we have method declaration take photo. And in music player interface, we have method declaration called play music. And smartphone is the implementation class. Why we are calling implementation class? Since this class is implementing two interfaces. So the implementation class needs to provide method implementation for all methods present in these interfaces. Okay, so what we are learning? We are learning multiple inheritance using an interface. What is multiple inheritance? Multiple inheritance, that means it is inheriting properties from multiple places. Okay, if suppose if we are using only one interface, that means camera, we are not using music player. So for now you can remove this thing. Okay, let's say this one. Now this is not multiple inheritance, this is single inheritance. We are inheriting from single interface. Now this is multiple inheritance using interface. Why interface? Because we are using here interface. Okay, so a smartphone can perform many functions. Okay, it works as camera and it works as music player. So instead of inheriting from multiple classes, Java allows a class to implement multiple interfaces. Okay, this is a Java solution to multiple inheritance. Okay, so we know, right? Instead of inheriting from two interfaces, what will happen if we inherit from two classes? So let's say if we inherit from two classes, that means instead of method declaration in both the classes, we will be having method definition. So camera will be having method definition and music player will be having method definition. So for example, imagine these are not interface, these are classes. So class will have the concrete method definition. Okay. So camera will have this take photo concrete definition and music player will have the concrete definition. Let's say both methods are same in both the classes. Imagine take photo is defined in the camera and take photo method is defined in the music player. And both are the classes. Imagine like that. I am trying to show what is the problem using classes. So camera and music player is classes and take photo is the method in both the classes, and both classes have the implementation since class will have the implementation. Okay, and now so camera will have different implementation for the take photo, music player will have the different implementation of the take photo. Now this smartphone class is inheriting properties and behavior from these two classes. Okay, now smartphone will get confused. Okay, take photo is available in the camera as well as in music player, and their implementation is also there, different implementation. So smartphone will get confused which method, if we are trying to access take photo inside the smartphone, now smartphone will get confused because camera has different implementation, music player has different implementation. So smartphone will get confused which implementation should I call. If I call here take photo method, which implementation to call? Compiler will get confused. Okay, so this is the problem in using classes for multiple inheritance. Since classes have the implementation. Now think of this way, whatever we implemented, camera and music player are interface. So since camera and music player are interface, both will have what? Method declaration. They will not define, right? So only declaration will be there. So even though both methods are same, okay, let's say we have same method in the both interfaces, only method declaration will be there, not definition. So I can define method here. Are you understanding the solution using interface? If we have class, that means two class means in both the classes there will be definition, implementation. So compiler will get confused when I call take photo method in the smartphone. Okay, but since we are using interface has only method declaration, not definition. So if I am using take photo in the smartphone, I can provide my own implementation. There will be no issue. Okay. So what is the problem with the classes? Okay, multiple inheritance using classes. Okay, let's say class A and we have method xyz which is printing hello. Okay, this is class A, and suppose we have another class B, and in class B also I have the same method, and this is also printing. Okay, this is printing let's say hi. Okay, so what I have written so far, we have defined two class A and B with the same method name but different implementation. Okay, what I said, same method name but different implementation. Okay, now let's say we have one class C that extends A and B. Why A and B? Because we are trying to learn multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance means one child class will have two parents. Okay, this is multiple inheritance. Who are those two parents? A and B. And this is what child class C. Now I want to call XYZ method here. Okay. So class A has XYZ method, class B has XYZ method, and I am calling XYZ method inside child class. So as we know by the definition that child class will have the accessibility of property and behavior of the parent classes. So class C have two parents A and B. So it has access to this method as well as this method. But the implementation is different for both methods, right? Class A XYZ method is printing hello, whereas class B XYZ method is printing hi. Now tell me, by calling this method XYZ, since class C has access to both the methods due to concept of inheritance, which method will get called? And both implementation are different. So here what will happen? Compiler will get confused. Which method to call? Both method name are same but different implementation. Compiler will get confused. So this is the problem in using classes as the multiple inheritance. So what is the solution? What is the solution? So solution is here. Okay. So let's say instead of class I have interface A, and I have same method XYZ, but as we all know, in an interface we do not define method, we declare the method. This is method declaration. And let's say I have one more interface B. I'm keeping the name same so that you can compare and understand. Okay, and interface B also I have the same method name, but since we do not provide the method definition in the interface, we only provide method declaration, so I will write only method declaration. Okay, now let's say I have class. Okay, this time I'm using class. Okay, focus. Class C implements A comma B. Now this is child class, but instead of using two parent class, it is using two parent interface. Okay, so since both, and I am calling here method. Okay, XYZ I am calling here. Now tell me what will happen, or you can say XYZ here you can provide its own implementation, whatever it is. Okay, let's say print by. So here it is providing its own implementation, and if it calls, now tell me what will happen. Will it throw compiler error? Compiler will get confused, or what will happen? So the answer to this question is, here we are using multiple inheritance, right? So class C is inheriting from A and B. In this case, A and B are interface, and since we are using a method declaration, not definition, so class C can provide its own definition and call this method. So that's how we can achieve multiple inheritance using interfaces. Okay, so we call it as damned ambiguity. Ambiguity means confusion. Okay, ambiguity problem. In some interviews, they will ask, what is dampened ambiguity problem? It is related to multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance, okay? So, let's say this is the shape of diamond, okay? So, let's say we have an interface A. And inside this method, we have defined XYZ. And let's say we have class B and let's say we have class B defining XYZ method. Let's say print hello. So what it is doing means printing hello, okay? And now let's say we have another class C, and this is also XYZ method, and this is printing hi. So class B is implements A. A is what interface, okay? Here we have defined. And similarly, class C implements A. So both class B and C implementing interface A. So we just now read the implementation class needs to provide method implementation of all methods present in the interface. So since we are having one method in an interface, so implementing class needs to provide an implementation of the method XYZ. That's why we are providing implementation of the method XYZ in both the class B and C. Now let's say we have class D. Class D extends B comma C. So class D is new class. B and C are what? Parent class. D is child. Extend, we are using inheritance keyword, right? Extends. So extends means what? It will be parent class. So instead of having one parent, we are having multiple parent. That's why we are calling multiple inheritance. So class D, that is child class, which is inheriting from two parents B and C. So here we have class B and class C. Now it is calling XYZ method inside the class D. Now tell me which method will get called. Since class D is child class, so XYZ method of class B and C are accessible to this child class. But which method will get called? That is the question. So since implementation are different in both the methods, in both the classes, compiler will get confused. Which method to call? We have two methods XYZ. Since it is two parent, both methods are accessible and both method name are same, but implementation are different. Compiler will get confused. Which method to call? So this is called diamond ambiguity problem. Why? See, you can see in the shape of diamond, right? So think of it like this: interface is implemented by these two classes. Now these two classes are the parent of these child classes. So this is in the shape of our diamond. That's why we call this problem as diamond ambiguity problem. So I will just revise. We have one interface A that is implemented by two class B and C, and since the implementation class needs to provide the method implementation of this method, so it provided the implementation, and since these two are different classes, implementation are different. And now the third class, that is the child class, and the parents are B and C. So class D have the access to call these methods XYZ from both the class, but it is calling XYZ since implementation are different in both the parent class B and C. So compiler will get confused which method to call. So this problem we call it as diamond ambiguity. And what is the solution of this problem, diamond ambiguity? Solution is interface. So instead of using two classes, which is providing implementation, we can use two interface with method declaration. So if class D implements B, C and B and C are interface, that means B and C are not having method definition. So class D can provide its method definition and use it, right? So that's how we can achieve multiple inheritance using interface. So we cannot achieve multiple inheritance using classes in Java, but we can achieve multiple inheritance in Java using an interface. Okay. Now let's. So what are the difference between an interface and abstract class? Okay. So for interface, just now we have seen we will use an interface keyword. And for abstract class, we will use the keyword abstract class. Okay. And through inheritance, it supports multiple inheritance we have just seen. And with the abstract class, single inheritance only. Okay. Single inheritance only with the classes. Okay. In interface, we do not provide no constructor. Okay. We do not provide any constructor. Abstract class can have constructors, can have instance variables. Okay. This will also have variable, but constants, fields are constants. Why we are saying constants? So variables will be by default what? Public, static, and what? Final. Variable will be by default public, static, and final. Final means what? Constants. We cannot change the value of the field. Okay. And used for contracts. We are defining a contract. We are providing only method declaration. What needs to be done? Contract means what needs to be done. Here we are using partial implementation. Why we are using partial? Partial means it will have abstract method as well as the concrete method. Abstract means only method declaration. That means method without implementation. And plus concrete method. Concrete method means with implementation. Okay, so these are the differences between interface and abstract class. Okay, mostly asked in interview, differences. So where are this concept of interfaces are used? Okay, so interfaces are used everywhere in an enterprise application. So for example, payment gateway can support multiple payment providers. Okay, multiple payment providers. Notification service, logging framework, database driver, JDBC, collection framework. In the coming videos, we will see what is JDBC, collection framework, Spring framework. We will learn these things very detail. Okay, so don't worry about it. Just have in mind like we use the concept of interface in the following examples. Okay. What are the advantages of an interface? Why we are using this interface? So we are using interface to achieve abstraction. So what is the definition of abstraction? Only showing essential detail and hiding complexity. Hiding complexity. Complexity will be hidden. How are we doing that thing? So an interface we will only do the method declaration, that is essential information. But what is the logic of that method? What is the implementation? What is the method definition? That will be provided by the implementation class. That is like complexity, that is hidden. Okay, that's how we achieve abstraction using interfaces. And we have seen how we can achieve the multiple inheritance using interface. Multiple inheritance means what? One child class, child, one child class having two parent interface. Let's say A comma B. These are what? Interface. So one child and two parent, multiple inheritance. So one child is inheriting from two parent interface. Okay, so whatever method, let's say we have XYZ method here, XYZ method here. Only method declaration will be there since it is an interface. So here child class can define the method, whatever, and child class can use it. So that's how we achieve multiple inheritance using interface in Java. Promotes loose coupling. We can have one interface and multiple implementation class based on our requirement. That's we call loose coupling. Flexibility, it improves flexibility, easier maintenance, better scalability. Okay, if application is becoming scalable, we can easily scale with this concept. Encourages reusable code. Okay, so these are the advantages of interface. Okay, let's quickly summarize what we learned so far. So we have seen what is an interface. Okay, and interface defines a contract. Okay, that classes agree to follow. That means implementation class will implement all methods of the interface. And also we explored some practical examples like payment system, notification. We have seen in the examples, and we have understood how to implement interfaces, and we have seen important rules. What are those rules we need to follow while writing an interface? And we have seen the concept of multiple inheritance using classes as well as the interfaces. That means we cannot achieve multiple inheritance using classes, but the solution is using interface we can achieve multiple inheritance. We have seen with the examples. And also we have compared between the interfaces and abstract classes. And also we have seen the real use cases of the interface. So that's all for this video. I hope this tutorial helped you understand the concept of interface in Java. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.